Welcome back to the Post-Binge Podcast.
Ooh.
We are in Studio 1 at BCIT, and we're here with Juliana and Hannah. They're two of my friends from a couple years back. We used to just go out and have fun on our younger days. We're kind of like old now. Do you guys feel like extra old now that we're like in a pandemic and no one's doing clubbing and doing that kind of stuff no more, but I just feel like when this is over, I'm not even gonna go back to that kind of life anyways.
Are you serious?
I don't know.
I feel like the thing
it?
that we talk the most, Hannah and I, is like,
absolutely.
when is the next time that we're gonna be able to go dancing?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, you guys love dancing.
We
We go
Yeah.
for the dancing.
Yeah,
really,
that's
really.
totally different from like when I was like single and young and like we weren't going for dancing. We were just going to drink, have fun, and get away from the life.
Yeah.
And like I guess dancing is a side thing that some of us have fun with. Like I love dancing, but I'm so bad at it. So
you're gonna come with us next time we go. We found like a few good ones that we really enjoy.
Really?
Hopefully it'll be the same as before.
Yeah.
So
you guys don't get hassled at these good ones?
No.
'Cause I had so much fun protecting my girlfriends.
You were always very good at that.
Yeah,
Like,
I was always like, anytime guys would be super creepy, I'd be always like, okay, I'll be right behind watching.
We usually so the two of us really enjoy going to Red Room on Fridays because they have Latin music, and obviously we're
That's
both
the music
Latinas,
you
so
like
we
to-
enjoy that.
You love dancing and Latin music too. That's the
And it's fun. It's like obviously there's gonna be people that come and ask you to dance and so on, but it's more of a very fun because people really just are there to dance. You know, they enjoy. A couple dancing and stuff. So it's not the same as, the tush kind of clubs that people are
like
just
the
kind of
EDM.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, that just grab
yeah.
from behind. That's the worst when people like grab you from behind without even saying hi or your face.
No, they definitely don't do that. They come and they talk to you a little bit, ask where you're from, because everybody there usually are from someplace else. So they usually ask you if you want to dance, and it's usually still,
Vancouver is pretty multicultural. Like there's a lot of different cultures here, and that's what I love about the city too. It's pretty diverse, and especially in like another Library Square, I think, where you see a lot of different I love that place because it's like, I can see like literally maybe like 30 people from 30 different countries are all in this one place.
I feel like when we were in college, that was for us, the Camby was very much like that. Like I feel like every time we would go to the Camby, there was like people from everywhere in the world,
and it was cheap.
It was cheap, yes.
For us students, that was a huge thing. We needed to find places that were cheap. Like my friends didn't love cheap places. I'm like, I'm broke, dude.
I'm broke. I like that.
Yeah.
I think we would go back and forth from like the Camby to the Pint.
Yeah.
Just to get some drinks at the
the Pint
Camby
as well.
and then back
And
to
then
the Pint.
just go to the Pint for like the dancing because
too.
it's a really good. They have like good music.
Yeah, and they had the two dance floors, like
the two
upstairs,
dance
downstairs.
floors.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Exactly.
All the throwbacks for us.
I know.
It's kind of weird to think that was like 3 years ago, huh?
It was more than that. I feel
More
like
than
the last time that we went dancing together or like went out together was
it was
like
maybe
I don't know,
4 years
4
ago.
years or so
What,
long ago.
2017, 2016.
Yes.
Because like it was usually birthdays, and I remember having my 20th birthday or something, and when
We definitely went to your 20th birthday.
one of my
We did at
birthdays,
the Pint for
I remember
sure.
I was so drunk, but I remember still saying hi to you guys. And like, but then it was like at the Pint, so it was hard to get in and all that stuff. So
It's always
I
like
remember.
that. It's
Yeah.
just people on the line, but
Yeah.
I feel like we definitely went there a few times together, and we had a really fun time. Yeah,
No, it's always fun with you guys. I wish we could hang out more often.
we will.
We're
Yeah.
busy.
Once things are better,
this
we'll
pandemic,
definitely go.
We'll definitely do some things. How's life in general for you guys? What have you guys been up to?
Yeah, well, I guess I definitely feel like a bit older in a sense, just because like life has just become so simple. Like it's just like working
Are you
remotely.
working from home?
Yeah, working from home, and then like cooking and stuff. Like that's been my life these days. It's
meal
like
prep and
meal
like-
prepping. Like but it's been really nice though.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it just feels like a simpler time. Like there's just not a lot of
Like that's what
other
a lot of
stuff
people
going
are
on.
saying is like the pandemic's actually helped some people because they're like, oh, I don't need to focus on all these different things. I'm just at home doing my thing and working, and then also making sure my house is clean and like, or like you're working on side projects. Like
A lot of gardening and
I've
cooking.
done so many
and-
side projects just in my room because I'm like,
Yeah.
I can add something on that wall. Oh, I can do some. I can
Yes.
make a new wardrobe or like
Yeah,
change
exactly.
and like I've done so many things.
Yeah.
Totally.
Literally, my room is tiny, but I put like everything up on walls now, so I save space and like
Nice.
and I love my room now. But before it used to be like a dungeon. It was so small.
Fair enough.
How
Yeah, no,
about
for
you?
sure. Like, I mean, for me, I only really had, like, I only stayed really at home in quarantine for 2 months because then I started working again, and and started studying again. So I really didn't have much time to that. But at that time that I was at home, I had so many different projects. It was like cleaning up and rearranging and building furniture and arranging the patio and so on. So definitely it was interesting to have that kind of time to do that. And I'm glad that a lot of people are taking the time to, you know, better themselves in some sort of ways. So yeah, it's been obviously devastating in so many ways, but I guess trying to find the good aspects that it can come out of this kind of
because it's a terrible thing. Obviously people are dying, all that, and it's sad, but the thing is we got to make the most out of every situation.
I mean, we're still living. We can't just, you know, put our lives on hold, right?
And like a lot of people, you just got to be safe, and like we sanitize here, we make sure everything's like clean, and you got to do. You know what I've noticed with my family and friends, I'm like, I don't know anyone who's gotten sick, knock on wood, like in the past like year or two, because not even like a cold or flu, because everyone's being super clean.
Absolutely.
Everyone's wearing masks.
And there are like statistics that the actual, you know, common flu has gone down significantly because everybody is obviously taking more care of themselves. Stays,
right? Like hopefully people are sanitizing and washing their hands, which you should have been doing before, but like now it's a reminder how much of a difference it makes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but we're here to talk about The Queen's Gambit. That is the show of the theme of the episode. It's nice catching up. But let's get into the show a little bit. You guys, when did you watch the show?
Well, actually, Juliana was the one who made me watch the show.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah, she was just like raving about it, and then I just started watching it. So I think that was like 2 months ago. I think. Yeah.
For me, it was. I mean, obviously, when it came out, it was such a rager. Everybody was like talking about it, and
it was trending on the Netflix thing on Twitter.
Everybody was buying chess sets.
Yes, that was nuts.
Chess prices skyrocketed because I wanted a chess set, and I was looking on Facebook. I was like, it's gotta be like $5.
I was glad that I already had like a really nice chess set at home. I whipped it out right away.
It was like I had those tiny chess pieces.
Oh yeah.
And I had that, but I didn't have the board. But I found a board, I found a big board, like a big. So I'm using these tiny chess pieces and a giant board.
Oh my gosh.
It works. It works. But it was. Nice. I just wanted to play, and it was fun. It's kind of crazy how like complicated chess is.
I know.
It's when we played as a kid, it was so simple. We thought.
Yeah, like this is just fun. It's very like, and a lot of people say this is the best game in the world, right? It's the most complex, and really there's a lot that takes for it, and a lot of studying, and a lot of like, and I just love the fact that like when you're doing a move, you have to think ahead 3 moves in forward, right? Like what's gonna come after? But you kind of have to imagine all the possibilities, and I think it's like. It's kind of like alludes to kind of life in general, right?
I was just about to say that. We're on the same wavelength. I was about to say chess is like life. Like you can't do a move without knowing what's going to come from it. Like you need to look at what's going to come after it.
Of course.
The consequences of each move you make in life. Like,
you got to be like, put yourself responsible for everything that you do. And I think it's kind of the same. If you mess up over here, it might not show up right now, but it might show up in a few moves, and you will eventually lose something. So it's pretty nuts.
And that's what the thing is. The show is about chess, but it's not about chess.
It's about everything.
It's trippy how it's like that. In the beginning, you're like, it's just about winning a tournament or whatever. And like, nope, it's way more than that. Yeah. Do you guys have, other than the main character, do you guys have favorite characers in the show? Like, do you like any of the side?
I really love Jolene.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like, she's so opinionated, has a mind of her own. But I think what I found really awesome is when she grew up, she never let anything that happened to her or anything that in her life hold her back. Yeah. She knew what she wanted and she went after it, and she's still doing so. And, she really took a whole 180 in her life, and she really is very successful at what she's doing. So I think that for me, she was always very entertaining because she's really funny, and, always used negative things that were happening in her life some way around to make her live better or do things better. So I think Jolene is probably one of my favorite.
Yeah, I think for me it was probably Mr. Scheibel. Just because he was he was just such an endearing character, and just his love in the background, like how he was collecting all of those little newspaper snippets.
And he was the only one to give her the money to play in the beginning. That was like what launched her, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah,
it's crazy. And I liked how stern he was in the beginning, and you got that sense of it. Like everyone knows that teacher that was super but knows they're soft.
They're soft in the end.
That was my favorite
I love those type of teachers because you know they're soft, but they're hard on the outside. And I loved it.
But I think that's what like a good leader is, right? Like someone who really inspires you, someone who's stern and these are the rules, these are how things have to be gone, but at the same time has the kind of passionate and humanity aspect underneath that really.
Well, that's the thing in chess too. It's like or in poker, like Poker Face. He's showing that like in life, basically. He's showing you don't want to show your cards in your face, and he does that because he's a chess player too himself. So he does that in life basically. He just doesn't show his cards until you deserve it really, and she deserved it from working hard to get there, and that was like I agree. He was one of my favorite characters as well. I also really loved the foster mom in the beginning. What was her name again? Do you guys remember the mom?
Her mom,
Alma.
Elma, yeah.
Oh, the mom.
Elma,
Yeah, she was in the beginning I did not like her because I'm like,
how come?
I don't know, something about her gave me they're doing it for the money or something, and then for foster parents, and then after I'm like, okay, she really cares.
Yeah, I think she just needed
husband
someone.
Was like totally not.
I think she just needed someone because she was very lonely, like a very lonely person. I don't remember if they said that they couldn't have children of their own, but they didn't. Right?
That's what I realized. I'm like, okay, yeah, she's really in for the kid, and like. They had a relationship that really grew, and it was like it was really natural. It was nice because in the beginning they're so apart from each other.
Yeah,
and then at the end they're literally mother and daughter. Yeah, and that was so nice. And I loved how like she was super on board after because obviously it was the money that kind of got her into. She's like, oh, you could actually make money from this. And
but I mean, think about it, like. It's a girl in the 50s, 60s, and then she's like, oh, I want to be a chess player. And then like, why would you bother that? At that time, like girls are girls, especially when Beth goes over to her friend's house and you really see the type of, the stereotypical girls of that age, they like to talk about music and boys and this and that. And Beth was really very different than that. And I think her mom, obviously eventually got into the whole, idea of her daughter being a chess player. Yeah. Because of the money, but also because Beth is different. Beth is, a very particular girl and an interesting story, and definitely differs from other girls her age at the time.
Definitely. I do think this show had a lot of themes to it. It's one of the things I've noticed is the one quote that I read online, the true cost of genius for me is the single most important theme of the book. Because I think Beth has this gift and it takes a piece out of her. She's there's this enormous burden tied to being a genius, right? Yeah. If you've known any geniuses, I don't really know anyone at that level. But even the smart kids in school or whatever, you could tell there's so much pressure on them all the time to overachieve or and she can tell there's a lot of burden on her to be. Oh, she's the only woman to do this too, right? In the 1950s, this is super. Not normal. You would be in the kitchen doing what women do at that time was just be obedient. And this is 1950s. Did they even have the right to vote yet? Did women have the right to vote? Yeah, I don't.
No, it was around that time. But
around that time was because at the same time in the 50s and 60s when it kind of started to move forward, and she was kind of like a trailblazer at that point. And I think a lot of girls would look up to her at the same time what she was doing. But yeah, what do you guys think about watching the living in the 1950s? Can you imagine living in that scenario as women, as the women you guys are today, as powerful, independent, and you guys have careers and you've gone through education, you're doing well for yourselves. But how much harder would it be in the 1950s?
Oh, incredibly harder. I mean, overall everything would be a different world, right? It's hard to imagine that because if you think 1950s, it's not even that far back in the whole history of the world, but definitely very, very different. And I think it's hard for you to put yourself back then because we grew up in this society. This is how we were taught to be. And if we were growing up at that time, obviously we would have a different mentality of how life should be. Maybe we wouldn't even want to be career woman, right? Maybe that wouldn't be something we would
want to be a stay-at-home mom because that's what everyone's doing.
Because that's what everybody's still doing. Yeah. So, it's a hard question for sure, and it's hard to even picture it. I think it would be interesting. I think if I could just transport myself back there to just experience it for a little while, I think I would enjoy. But definitely, I don't think I would trade my life in 2020. No.
I think if we were transported there, then people wouldn't even accept us, right?
No,
what the hell? What are you guys doing?
Why are you talking to me? You're just a woman. Just be quiet.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's the thing is now the norm is getting a bachelor's degree. Like that is the norm now. And being a stay-at-home mom, people might actually be like, oh, why do you want to be a stay-at-home? You don't want your own career. And it's preference, really. It's like you gotta kind of think about each person, and each individual is what they want to do. And if you want to be a stay-at-home, that's fine. I've talked to my girlfriend Ju, and we were talking about how I'd be okay with being a stay-at-home dad one day. Yeah. Because I want some time off.
Absolutely. And I think it really depends on like how your financial stability is, right? If you can afford, and if that's something that you like to do, and if it makes you feel fulfilled, there's absolutely no wrong whatsoever. No. I think what really pushes people to study and to go on to have careers is because of financial aspects, right? There's a lot of people that cannot afford to be just one person working at home, right?
And especially in Vancouver too.
In Vancouver is really, really hard. But there's no shame in doing it. If it's something that makes you happy, if it's something that you're okay with, I think it's, power to you.
Yeah, that's the thing. And especially like guys mentioned Vancouver, like I don't think we can live with one person working anymore.
No, I don't think so.
It's not possible.
Sadly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Are you guys moved out, or are you still trying to fend for yourself in this world? Because I can't even think about like trying to get a mortgage going right now. I'm trying to do it with my whole family. We're all thinking about like pooling together, getting a place for my mom, because I just want to get my mom a place, and then I'll be happy, right? Yeah. Because I can come after, I can rent, I don't care. I just what our goal as a family is trying to get a place for my mom, and then we can do our thing after.
Right.
But yeah, that's the goal right now.
That's good. You guys are taking care of her though.
Yeah, my mom's a single mother too, so like we just need to get
she worked really hard to take care of all you guys.
Exactly, we got to pay her back somehow. So
absolutely, no, but it's hard. I mean, it's in our market. I mean, Vancouver is just so expensive, and I feel like we just started our careers. I mean, until we can actually
shitty. It's so shitty that
but it shouldn't be shitty, because we went through school and so on.
We're in debt now.
It's hard. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, and really you see that in the show, like, alluding to that, like, people working really hard to find their dreams and find their careers and find their thing, and that's really what we're doing. And unfortunately, it's gonna be, we're gonna have to work extra hard. For me, I mean, I will always study and work at the same time to be able to afford everything that I was doing. And my family's not rich; I don't have everything. So there were times that I was working 2 jobs while studying full time. Yeah. So
I remember always trying to find a day to hang out with you, and it'd be impossible.
It's impossible, but that's the thing.
Maybe, are you going to be in downtown around between 12 to 12:30? Maybe we can like go get sushi for 15 minutes. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. But I mean, and it was hard. Yeah, it was pretty hard. But at the same time, I was able to achieve so many things that I feel very happy about. Yeah. And I mean, that's just how life is. There's going to be, it's the same as Beth going through her chess life. It was as much of a blessing for her. It was also a burden for her. It was also a prison for her. Yeah. But once she, reached her goal, and she was able to finally be free from that, pressure that she had to become a world champion. She was able to finally be free and be who she was meant to be. And I think that's pretty much our lives as well, going through school, going through our troubles, to be able to be who we wanted to be. And there's going to be times that it's going to be really, really shitty, really, really down. And there's going to be times it's going to be really happy. So I think it's okay. And I think it's okay for us to understand that it's not always going to be sunshine and happiness. No, there's going to be troubles, there's going to be things. But at the end, there's going to be a lot of rewards and happiness. And I think that's what's to be good.
That's the thing. The harder you work, it's the harder it is to surrender in a way. Like you're not, if you work hard enough, you're not going to bow down easily, Yeah. And that's why I find when I do my things, like if I do things for fun like this, and like it's helping me in other aspects of my life, in my career or whatever, I just pursue it. And if I work hard enough, I know that it'll work out. Yeah. Like if you don't put your all into it, there's gonna be things that crumble around you, and then you'll know it might not be for you, and then you just pivot. Yeah. And just like a pivot in Friends. That's what I always think of every time. Yeah.
Definitely.
What do you guys like about the show? If there's one thing that sticks out to you, like any aspect of it, like Hannah, what do you think? Anything about the show that really stuck out to you, that you really enjoyed? The acting, the some senior storyline?
Yeah, no, I think honestly what captivated me was the story. Watching the first episode for me, I think for everyone, you get your first impression of the show from the first episode. And yeah, it just made me want to watch more. The story was so good, and I just couldn't stop watching. It was something that I absolutely binge watched. Yeah,
I could definitely say the child actress,
yeah, she was
did
so
a great
good.
job. And how are they so look exactly the same?
I know, they're very similar.
They casted so well. Whoever the producer is in that show and like director, whoever casted those actors, they picked perfectly. Or they did crazy makeup and costuming to make that happen, because that was perfect. And I found that the actress, she did a great job. It's very subtle acting, but she did a great job in like portraying what it was like being an orphan at that time, and even being so different. Like, she was obviously a different person, very smart, but like at the same time she wanted to do different things. She wasn't like following the line, and that's what I found really great about her.
I thought it was great that at no point the child, not even Anya as well, when obviously she was grown, it never felt like she was arrogant about the fact that she was really smart and was really good at it. She just did her thing, and she proved it through her actions rather than her words or any comment or anything. So I think that was for me was really interesting, and it really got to make me feel more connected with the character itself, because I could really see that she was there for the game rather than for the praises or anything like that.
Yeah, there are the other themes in this show that like kind of stuck out to me was addiction. You can tell with Beth getting addicted to the alcohol and like getting in the other side, the pills. Like, there's a lot of addiction in the show, and like in the 1950s, everyone was alcoholics. Yeah, like that was just the norm. Smoking, like you could smoke anywhere in buildings, anywhere, and like that was the time for addiction. What people didn't even know what addiction was. Yeah, and I found that it's so intriguing in today's world, because today's world we're addicted to different things. I feel like addicted
binge-watching.
Binge-watching, or even like social media or like stuff like that. Like it's come upon where that wasn't even a thing in the 1950s. Of course. I find that super interesting, because it's nice. I see people smoking less. Like cigarettes is a lot more down now than you see back then. Which is great, and I think we're getting away from that. But at the same time, we gotta check ourselves, because I feel like we're getting into another territory with propaganda online and like all this other stuff, and people believing everything they see on the internet, and it's just crazy. What do you guys think about like just addiction itself and how it's portrayed in the show?
I mean, I think like it's very human for us to look for ways to numb the pain, right? And I feel like in any part of history, there's going to be different ways of achieving that. In the 60s, it was, like you said, it was very much about cigarettes. It was all about drinking alcohol and other types of pills and so on. In the 70s, obviously, they tried so many different drugs and such. But I mean, in the show, it was really interesting for me, was because Beth had no parental figure per se, even though she had her mom eventually. Yeah. Her mom was a drunk, as the same, right? Like her stepmother. Sorry, her adopted mother, not stepmother. Yeah. So I think like she was obviously, like you said, in an immense amount of pressure. She was frustrated when even Harry mentioned it a lot of times. When she would not be doing very well in the game, she started freaking out and kind of just thinking very one kind of like looking at one thing and couldn't think outside the box kind of thing. Yeah. And I think that was very much for her. She was in a lot of pain. She was in a lot of pressure, and she was looking for something to numb that pain. And unfortunately, it was the drugs and the alcohol that really met her, and obviously the drugs when it started in the orphanage as well. So it was interesting the way it was portrayed. I think it was an awesome character development, and there's so much symbolism that goes within that whole storyline. The way she was able to face her troubles and become just a better player in general. And it was interesting to see the people around her and who helped her to get there. Benny was very much so someone that really inspired her to be better and to drink less. So it was actually very interesting. It was interesting to see how it planned out in her life and in back then. So yeah.
Yeah. I also wonder, like, if the addiction would have started if the orphanages weren't giving out that medication as well, right? Like, I wonder if that would have happened for her. Yeah. But I think, like, as a child as well, like, you know, getting that medication and, you know, having all of this trauma, like, I would understand, like, why she dealt with it that way, because it made her feel good. It made her feel smart, right? Like
even in today's world, you see that addiction usually coming from kids that are neglected, or kids that are like grew up in bad neighborhoods or stuff like that. There's always something that gives them that push to go into that bad path, and it sucks because it's like something that you can't avoid in a lot of ways. And that's one of the scariest thing I find is potentially being a father one day is like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do if my kid were to get into that type of stuff. Like, I wouldn't know how to stop it. And that's what's scary. I was like thinking about stopping. I mean, like going to rehab and seeing a lot of shows are portraying it in a certain way too. So yeah, it's always addiction is a scary thing, but there's always a way out of it. And people gotta remember, like, there's always help, and you just gotta ask for help. And
especially in our age, right? Like right now, there are so many sources to get help for this kind of things. It's sometimes it's hard to find it. Sometimes it's hard to really make your way to it. And you know, when you're addicted to something, you want it. So it's hard for you to have that moment of kind of an epiphany and be like, I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, it's good that you're already thinking of something like that. You know, if you're in a eventual future that you're going to have a child or something, because then if it's already in your head, you're already kind of building up that preparation to, you know, be very present, to be, you know, very, you know, obviously observant to a child and see patterns and see how they're coming along, and be firm, you know, be like Mr. Scheibel, be firm, be a leader, be good, and obviously be compassionate and loving and enabling, you know, your child to succeed and be great and who they're supposed to be. So it is hard. I definitely understand. I would definitely hate to have to go past something like that, but it happens. It's part of life. And I mean, we're just blessed to be able to live in a society that has so many ways of helping out with this kind of things.
I think with Netflix originals, they've done well, I think, is bringing in new aspects of television. Like a lot of these shows have never been kind of done before. And I've noticed that like Netflix has come out and like put on a lot of shows that you don't see, like we're talking about right now the 1950s, and they talked about a lot of sexism back then and a lot of like stuff like that. And then we got also like shows like I'm going to do another podcast on this, Never Have I Ever, where it has a lot of Asian representation in television. And then we've got 13 Reasons Why, where they talk about the suicide and a lot of like depression. So it's like, I think Netflix is really doing a great job because they realize that a lot of these kids are watching Netflix nowadays and they're binge watching, and maybe this is a good way to get to them and to understand it. And I think it's working in a lot of ways.
And I mean, even with Queen's Gambit, like so many for so many years they tried to create a TV show for it, and so many networks have passed it because they're like, who's going to be interested
in a book originally, right?
Yeah, it's a book. So they were like, why would anyone be interested in a show about chess playing? Like it's the most boring game in the world, but it's really not. And I think that's what it was so interesting from the show. And I remember there was this part on the one episode when they are in that university and they're doing a tournament, and Benny is giving this interview to this young guy, and they're talking about obviously chess playing and chess players, and Benny says something in the line of usually people think of chess players and they think of someone that looks like you know, the stereotypical nerdy guy. And then there's me, who's also a chess player, who's champion, and I also look that way. And I think it's a kind of like a simile between Benny and the show itself, and not the show itself, sorry, and the way the show portrays chess, which is, you know, it can be kind of mysterious and a little, you know, kind of sexy at the same time, and a little interesting and very clever. So I think it was really the grab, you know, it was picking something that for a majority of the people would be like, oh, this is so serious, a serious game and so on. But it has this whole other world around it, and it could be really interesting. And I think that's one of the reasons why it became so popular. It was just depicting something that might not be so charming, but at the end of the day, it's pretty fantastic, and it has so much to give, kind of thing.
Yeah, I do like what Netflix does with these type of shows is they push them right away. You can see like if as soon as you log on to Netflix, it's like kind of has the banner of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it gets rolling. Is like they like watch it right away, and then they promote it on Twitter or whatever. People latch onto it. A lot of good shows have come out like that because they actually promote it. Like other shows, other streaming platforms I've used, I've noticed that they don't promote their originals as well as Netflix has done.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I find I also like Amazon Prime Video. They have a lot of good originals on there, but Netflix I think is at the top of its game right now.
Yeah.
Another theme about this show the coming of age, obviously loneliness. I think loneliness is a big thing with her, and like drowning herself in alcohol or in her addictions, not being with a lot of people at the time when her mom is gone.
Yeah.
She obviously spirals into another place because she doesn't really have a tight-knit group of friends or anything like most people would. And she's never really kind of wanted that either. She's kind of been on her own, but at the same time, I think everyone needs some sort of like, we're humans. We need some sort of, and that's the pandemic right now is that's affecting a lot of people, I think, especially extroverts and people who do like going out and meeting people or engaging with people, having conversations. And I missed it. I'm missing this. Like I haven't done this in so long. And like, talking to different people, talking to them, I'm like, oh, man. I'm not an extrovert that, out there, but I think I'm a hybrid where I need to recharge.
Totally.
Like after today, I'm gonna take 3 days by myself, like and just recharge.
Too many people.
Yeah, just recharge. But I love like having conversations and talking to people, and I think this show like kind of shows like loneliness is a real thing, and like even if you're an introvert, you need that sort of like interaction with people. And, like,
but I think that's something that they really portray very beautifully. That at the end of it, you see many times Beth realizes that she's in fact not alone. You know, there's a scene where she's playing with Jolene squash, and they have this conversation, and Jolene is like, we were never orphans because we had each other the whole time we were there, you know, and we are gonna have each other's backs forever. And then, you know, she sees that with Jolene, she sees that with Mr. Scheibel when she goes to visit him, visit the school after his passing, and she sees that he was always there for her. He was always keeping track of her and seeing what's going on and rooting for her.
And also her group of friends that she made through all the chess tournaments.
At the end,
when they all get together
that
and
was
they
the
help her
cutest
out.
thing.
That was such a beautiful moment.
I think that was like when she went to visit the school again, and that final scene. I think those are my favorite scenes.
That's when she really realized, oh, I actually do have like a family here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I have family. I have friends who are there for me, and they're here. Like she wouldn't have reached everything that she did by herself. Yeah. And I think that's what really great, because she has always been so independent from the day one, and she needs to realize that all these people really, really were there for me, and I think that's what's really lovely and humble about her. And when she's doing like the last few interviews, and she's like, she wants to make sure that they write down Mr. Scheibel's name, and you know she wants them to make it known that he's the one that got her, you know, started. And I think that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
I think it's great. Like, and then the thing of coming of age, she's very young. Like, she had so much success at such a young age. And in today's world, like if you're like a music artist or something like that, or an actor, they spiral real quick. You know, you notice that like with a lot of actors or anything, they get money quickly and then they spiral. I think that was very realistic in the show. What happened to her? Like, obviously she got a bunch of money, and she was living alone for the most part. You can do whatever you want. Like, I think a lot of people can understand from that point. Like, this is normal. Like, you think she's just gonna have a normal life after that age? Like, what was she at that point when she was already winning tournaments? She was still in high school, right?
She was young, yeah.
She was in high school, so like, that was, I think, on point too. And in the 1950s, it's even crazier because you're a woman, plus you're very young, and you're playing guys that are much older.
Yeah, but I think it really shows like, I really think that part really develops her character, because I like the way she lives as well as the way she plays. And it's something that Harry pointed out, is that she's very impulsive. She doesn't plan ahead. She kind of just does things, and she kind of goes on, you know, the way she bought the house. She just bought the house. She didn't even think of anything of how much that could have affected her, and it did, you know, right? Yeah. So I think it's really nice to see her developing and growing up, because, like you said, she's young. You know, a lot of young people are impulsive. They just want to live in the now and do things and be things. And I think that really affected the way she would drink, because she would just go and buy drinks and drink. Didn't even think about the way she was going to feel later or how much that could affect, even the way when she was in Paris, she just went out and drank that night, and it really screwed up for her, and she had to really realize that for herself and make changes in her life and become better and be able to succeed the way she wanted to succeed.
Very true. Do you one last thing? Do you guys have a favorite part, like a scene or anything, like a favorite scene of the show that always sticks out to you? Because I've had definitely one that like comes into mind. I have so many. Really?
So many. Yeah, when like I mentioned, like when she goes into the school and she sees Mr. Scheibel's board, I think that was fantastic. Yeah. Really super emotional. Obviously when the boys call in the morning of her last tournament, that was just great. Yeah. And I think the last scene, like when she steps out of the car, finally free. And obviously, like the whole, symbolism that there is, the fact that she's, dressed in white and she has the crown, and she finally reached, she is in fact the queen of chess, and she's the queen, the most powerful player of chess in the middle of all these men who are chess players, and that's the rest of the chessboard. So I think the whole scene is really fantastic, and how she's finally, reached what she wanted to be, and she still can go out and play chess because she loves it, and she's always going to be the queen. She's always going to be the white queen, and she finally lets go of the holdups that she had in her life, such as her drinking problems and drug problems. She finally steps out of there, and she becomes exactly who she needs to be. And I think that's just beautiful, like the way it wrapped out fantastic.
They definitely like nailed the ending. Like, it was a very good, satisfying ending, and that's very difficult to do in today's world. Like with television, like you get so much controversy. In the last podcast I talked about how Game of Thrones had a terrible ending and it ruined half the fans are like wanting a redo and everything, and then like other shows like Breaking Bad did a perfect job, and it's just nice to see when they do it right, and I think they did it. You don't have to go anything crazy too. It's just simple. Exactly, simplicity always does it for you, and it was like a nice, satisfying ending.
Yeah, it was nice wrapping.
My favorite scene, I think I loved it because it was so funny, and at the same time, it was just so cool to see just them playing chess. It was the scene where she beat like 3 guys at once. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
When in the apartment room, the fast game where he one at a time, and I'm just like, she's just making money off them.
Yeah, that was really good.
I just thought that was just
it was nice
cool
because when they were in the university and she's playing against Benny, she lost so much money for him, and then she was able to go back and then
that's it was her payback, or she's like, okay, it's my turn. I love that part.
Yeah, that's a really great one. Actually, when they're in the tournament in that university, and there's this kind of like they kind of do like sort of collage of like scenes, and there's this really fantastic great sound that is called I think it's Classical Gas, that is the name of the musical at the end, and it's just so fantastic the way they're like thinking and the clock's ticking, and it's just beautiful cinematography, and I just really find that a really great scene.
That was it.
What about you, Hannah?
No, I have to say just probably the scene where she finds all of her newspaper clippings in Mr. Scheibel's room.
It's a heartwarming
I'm just like, I'm such a sucker for like emotional scenes where it like gets me crying. Like I really like. I don't know.
I think there's a lot of shows nowadays that can get you tear jerking for sure. Yeah. I think that now they don't realize a lot of people are enjoying those type of sentimental.
And it's nice,
shows.
like because there's so many different emotions that show portrays, and obviously it's sad. She had sad life, many tragic moments, but it's also nice to be able to kind of have that balance between, and it's kind of like life, like that we were talking about earlier. It's like there's gonna be hard times, gonna be good times, and it's just how it is. And it's good to be portrayed that way. It doesn't have to be, because it's not supposed to be a comedy. It's not supposed to be happy all the time. So
yeah,
exactly. All right, thank you guys for coming and seeing
welcome.
me and like hanging out with me here. We've done this. We're gonna do this again. I believe so. I think you guys did a great job here. I know you guys. These guys have never been on camera or on a microphone like this ever, and that shocks me. So you guys
thank you very much.
I did a great job. They're naturals.
Awesome.
I'm gonna let them just talk. I'm doing a great job. Juliana had a bunch of things.
I know.
Like, she was on a roll. I'm like, I don't want to stop her. I'm just gonna let her go. I think it's the show that got you going too.
Like I said, I chose the show to come and talk about it because it's something that I really enjoyed, and I watched it twice because the first time is like for me was very much the plot of the story and what's happening. And the second time I was able to absorb more about, you know, the more symbolic aspects, the more, you know, how one thing that I really loved and I only noticed the second time I was watching is the fact that the crew did like a lot of the scenes you can see on the backgrounds and the furniture and the clothing, chess lines. To always allude to, like, to always be thinking about chess. Even when you're not talking about chess, there's going to be chess lines on the back. So for you to always be thinking. Cool. It's like little details like that.
I got to watch it again then.
Exactly.
I know, I probably should watch it
again too. Watch it again to look out for that
you
kind of stuff.
inspired us, Juliana.
But there's like, and this show is full of it. It's fantastic. And obviously there's so much that I didn't catch, but like little things like that, it just for me enriches the aspect. And you know, like that's what I really enjoy. Like Hannah always hates the fact that I don't mind spoilers. But really I don't care. Like if I don't care too much about the plot of the story. It's really how they do it and how they make it
how
beautiful.
How they get there, right? Like a lot of people, that's what I, as a potential future director, and I want a story. I like writing scripts. I've actually got a green light going on one of my childhood stories. Like I got a green light, so it's gonna get produced next year. Yeah,
Congrats,
it's gonna get produced.
Dude, that's fantastic.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. It's gonna be called Garbage Man. It's about when I was a kid and I had an interaction with a dumpster diver as a kid I used to give him bananas for breakfast because I was a kid. I was like walking to school type of thing, and like
always kind, always lovely.
Always kind. No, but I just thought he was dumpster diving food or something, and I was give him an extra banana. I would start packing because I used to see him like every day, and then
so sweet.
and then we had kind of like a interaction every day, and then I started building a relationship, and then all of a sudden he just disappeared, and like I wondered every day I've wondered where is this guy now? Like what is going on? And then I made a story out of it. I wrote a script. It got green lit recently, and now I'm excited because I'm hoping I can direct it, and we'll see if we'll see. I'm gonna post it online. You guys can see it when it comes up.
Absolutely, we'll be like checking out for sure. So exciting.
But yeah, that's as a director, like I was saying, it's more about how you get there. Like I have an ending in mind already. Like the ending is solid, but I'm thinking about how I'm gonna get to that ending. And writing the script about it. Like it's all about what comes in between the plots, what's the conflict, and you need to like kind of like bend your way to that ending, but it can't be just straight line. There's got to be curves, hills, downhill, uphill, a lot of emotions, and the climax. It's got to be a lot of things to go through it, and I think the show did a tremendous job at that.
I agree.
And we'll close it at that. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thanks
Juliana
for having us here.
If you want Juliana and Hannah to come back, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to bring them back. They did a good job, but like, if you want them to come back, hit me in the DMs and we'll bring them
We'll come back for sure.
You guys got to watch some more shows so I can like just keep bringing
We
them.
will, for sure.
I know, no time.
So many more to
no
binge
time,
watch,
all the grinding. All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thank
you.